Welcome back to Casuals Corner, and today we're going to have a look at arguably the biggest fight on the 259 card, Izzy v Yan, and that's the best way of me saying it without getting the names confused. So, I'm joined by Frankie, give us a wave, and now what I'm going to do for you is we're going to start off by having a look at their head-to-head stats, and you haven't actually had a look at these, Frank, so as I go through these, it's going to be a little eye-opener for you. So we start off with Adesanya. I'll get his name flowing correctly by the end of it. I'm just going to call him Stylebender. 6'4", 185 pounds, 80-inch reach advantage. Now, when we have a look at the career statistics, this is throughout the whole of UFC. I always find these really, really interesting, actually. So significant strikes landed per minute, and hopefully I'm going to get these to come up on the screen. So significant strikes landed per minute is 4. Striking accuracy is 50%. Significant strikes absorbed per minute is 2.3. Striking defense is 65%. And then, as you can see, as you could quite clearly guess, there was no takedown attempts. So accuracy and average is at 0. But as we know, he has a very, very strong takedown defense at 86%. And that takedown average is every 15 minutes in the cage as well. So then we have a look at that compared to Yan. That's 3.49 strikes landed per minute. So it's actually not wildly off Adesanya's, which I thought was quite surprising.
Yes.
Striking accuracy is 48%. So compared to Izzy's 50%, actually very, very similar. Strikes absorbed per minute, slightly higher, 2.74. Striking defense, this is the one that sort of jumped out to me, 54%, which although may not seem a million miles away from Izzy 65%, that can play a very, very big part in a fight with a striker like Izzy. And then takedown, we have 1 every 15 minutes, accuracy 50%, which is actually fairly strong. Takedown defense significantly lower than Izzy's with 65%. And then you've got the submission.
I don't think he's going to need it. I don't think he's going to need the takedown defense. He's going to need to scrap is what he's going to need to do. But
I don't think it's going to the floor either. Even though he's a black belt on the canvas, I don't think it's going there. So I think we can sort of, I want to say forget that, but it's not to say that I can't see Yan trying to take him down. Maybe. I
will touch on it a bit more. I'll give somewhat of a technical breakdown. I think there will not be on the floor, but there will be some grappling. I think it will be a good game plan to maybe clinch a little bit, but I will touch on that all later. I'm sure you've got some head-to-heads on their last 5 fights that we need to compare and contrast.
Yes. So, as you said, that flows us into their last 5 fights. So when we have a look at their last 5 fights, firstly, Yan. So Yan's currently 27-8 in the UFC, and his last 5 fights, he had Reyes, which was a TKO, Corey Anderson, which was a knockout, Souza, which was the decision, Rockhold with the KO, and then Thiago Santos with the TKO as well. So there was a loss in there, and that was his last 5 fights. Again, some impressive wins. But when you compare that to Izzy's, you really see the caliber of which this fighter is, but who he's been fighting recently, because these are no mucks. So his last 5 fights, he has Costa, obviously. I mean, obviously we're probably going to strike that off because of he was drunk, so obviously that doesn't count.
Winegate.
Winegate. Romero, before that, less said for that fight, better.
Yeah.
Won't go into that one too much. Robert Whittaker, Gastelum. Now that, and then Silva, obviously, and then that was actually 5, but Bronson after that as well. So you can have a look at his last 6 fights there with some high pedigree. So coming off a 20-0 currently as well. 20-0.
Yeah, undefeated, which does play a factor, I think, being an undefeated fighter is that confidence you go in there with. But he's had some wars in those fights, so you could either way who's had the harder schedule. But again, they're all just fighting killers, so anything can happen in there. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure we're about to get into it. Speaking of which, I know that obviously they have 2 different styles, right? That's what makes a good fight. But I know that they are fighting in the smaller cage, so you got to think that does somewhat play into Jan's favour. But then he fought, who did he fight in the smaller cage? No, he didn't. He fought Costa in the normal cage, but he's so elusive. He knows the cage so well. I don't think that it's going to massively play into Jan's hands. I think he'll negate that. But what do you think?
So I was just going to say, for the people that maybe are watching that don't know the difference, just explain briefly what you mean by it being in a smaller cage and what you mean it by bigger
So
cage,
in the Apex, UFC
and what
Apex,
are some differences that you may see?
yeah,
Obviously,
the cage it's like 37% smaller overall, which obviously for someone like who's rangy at Adesanya and who wants to play that game on the outside will make a difference. Like that is a lot of cage that there is a difference. And then obviously someone like Jan who probably against Adesanya wants to get inside, maybe make it a little bit dirty. Definitely doesn't want to stand at a range where he can get dinged with all sorts. You either want to be all the way in, all the way out. You know, if you stand in that middle ground, it's a dangerous game, especially with someone the caliber of Adesanya. So you want to head him off ideally, but he switches a lot. He uses the cage to his advantage. So it might play a factor, it might not. But the beautiful thing is, we're going to find out.
This is the thing when I look at, because it is a factor and it's a huge factor, especially when you look at the percent of 37. Sometimes you hear statistics and they're like, 5 or 8%, and it's hard to like understand the magnitude of that difference. But even just a statistic 37%, you can see how different it really is. I think typically how they match up stylistically, being in the smaller cage should keyword go against a fighter like Adesanya. On paper. Do I think it will? Probably not. This is nothing that he's not seen before. This is nothing that he wouldn't be prepared for. He is as elite as it comes when it comes to striking. And I think something like it being a smaller cage, I don't think that's going to make a massive amount of difference in terms of his performance. I think he's seen and been and done it all before. I think that's the thing with Adesanya. So that's what just makes him so scary. And then you look at his last 5 fights that we just spoke about against those killers in the middleweight division. So yeah, I don't think that in this particular fight that's going to play out as too much of a disadvantage for him. Definitely.
I think in terms of like the stylistic breakdown, it's interesting because particularly you'll see Jan, right? He's effectively a counter striker, right? But he will want to catch you as you're coming in, like he did with Reyes, right? But Adesanya's not there to play that game. Like he'll blitz a lot of guys, like for example, Corey Anderson as he's coming in for the kick, right hand straight down the middle. But Adesanya is so patient and he'll set things up that he won't be there to hit. He's so elusive. So it's gonna be tough for Jan to get inside. But of course, he's known that the whole camp, so he's been working solely on that. But it really is an interesting clash of styles. Jan is big as well, but he's a huge man. Like he's just big. Like, his head's big. His shoulders are big. His arms.
He has a big loaf, doesn't he? He has a big loaf. Yeah, a big loaf of bread. I think like what you said, he's gonna want exactly what you said. His game plan typically is looking for that counter shot, and he knows that he has the power in his hands to switch it off if he lands. So the difficulty for Izzy throughout the fight is, and again, it's not to say that he hasn't faced this before, maybe to not this extent of power in the UFC. We know that in his kickboxing career that he actually fought up to the heavyweight division. Like you said, so Jan's going to be looking for that counter strike. The difficulty is, and the danger of it is, especially when you're talking about a champion, we're not just talking about someone, a ranked opponent who is dangerous and has got power in the hand. When you're talking about a champion that has that sort of power, has that know-how, and he's a black belt on the floor as well, so he's not just very one-dimensional. He needs to land one shot throughout that 25 minutes. Yeah. One shot.
Legendary Polish power.
And this is, as big of a fan as I am of Izzy, and as much as I want to see him win, that's really what it's coming down to for Jan. All his preparation, everything he's going to do, it's not to say that's going to be his game plan, because I don't think it is, but that's all it can take to end the fight. So he's looking for, or he can have one shot in 25 minutes and that can turn it off. So it's a scary prospect.
It's interesting really, because you say he hasn't necessarily dealt with a UFC champion with that power, but of somewhat of a similar style. I would argue that Whittaker has that blitzing style, and he dealt with him pretty well, to be honest with you. He was quite evasive. He did get caught in that fight, don't get me wrong, but he was very evasive. He kind of had Whittaker's number there. His head movement's fantastic. Like, he's always out of the way of shots. He's doing just enough to get out of the way. He'll switch, he'll come back, he'll give you different looks. And for Jan, right, you've got to think that he's got to mix up the grappling, like not even necessarily get a takedown, but put him against the fence, get those arms heavy, and he does some fucking good work on the break from clinching. So you'll see it in the Rockhold fight, as he's breaking on the clinch, he'll land that left hook, and even within the Reyes fight, that final kind of flurry where they're in tight and he landed that check left hook that made his legs go, then obviously he finished it on the floor. So again, he's got to get inside.
It's interesting you brought up the Whittaker fight as well, because you say they're quite similar in terms of Jan and Whittaker. I think the only difference that there's going to be with this fight is that when you saw the Whittaker fight with Izzy, he was quite happy to not stand there for too long, but happy to stay in the pocket and trade. He sort of, you know what his head movement's like and his movement in general. He knows he's very evasive. He can dodge and slip punches. Yeah. I don't think he's gonna. Even when you look at the knockout, right? He done his, I want to say, famous. I guess it sort of is that matrix sort of slide, as he does, sort of slid out the way of Robert Whittaker's punch, and then he sort of coiled up that left hook. I don't think that we're gonna. I don't know. I can't see him. Staying and trading for as long as he did with someone like Whittaker. I can't see him doing that with Jan because I just think it's too risky. But it's like what you said as well in terms of his striking. What makes it so difficult is he sets so many traps, constant fakes. He's just every single second throughout that fight is just constantly setting something up or looking like you're about to set something up. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Jan has to mix it up. I think he has to use that sort of strength and that weight advantage where he can. I think it sort of pulls him to the point of Izzy's weight. He said that he's going to sort of stay where he is. He's not going to look to put on anything up to the fight, which I thought was really interesting. I think when you listen to him sort of speak about it, I think it's so interesting in terms of
his approach.
Exactly that. It's what he sort of alluded to with John Jones, and it made me laugh about how he was saying he's doing it all wrong. He needs X amount of time to sort of put on muscle on his weight. He said that's not how he wants to do it. He said he wants to sit at the weight he's been his entire life and that he's sort of perfected, exactly, quote unquote, and stay there. That's where he's comfortable with, and he doesn't want to have to make a load of unnecessary adjustments up to the fight. So what do you think about the sort of the size differences going in? Because a lot of people say that he's not actually as skinny or as small as people say.
He's 6'4", and he's a big guy. He doesn't look big. I've never met him, but he doesn't look big. But he fought Costa, right? Who is, let's be honest, he's a light heavyweight. Like Costa can't fight in California anymore because he weighs in too much above the weight class when he's rehydrated. So realistically, he's a light heavyweight. And if you look at Whittaker and Costa, I feel like Blachowicz is kind of like a mix of the two. Like he has that power, but he has that darting in and out style where he'll wait and blitz. But I think it will be somewhat similar, more than the Costa performance. He's somehow perfected. I say perfected. For a long fighter, he'll time you, and then he'll play that game inside, and he'll figure out what you're going to throw, and he'll land that counter shot inside for like a rangy fighter. That's not necessarily his game, but he really has perfected kind of fighting inside when he's ready, not when the opponent's ready. Like he knows what you're going to throw. He gets ready, he slip, and he'll come back with usually the left hook, but he has other shots as well. His shot is just tremendous.
It's his adjustments that he makes, and it's his reads that he makes throughout the fight that this is why I struggle to look past him so much. I know that we can have a look at Jan, and you can't overlook him because he is rightfully so the champion at the moment, and he's on an incredible win streak. But when you've watched as much Izzy, and everything they said up to this point has been absolutely to the letter. And like we were saying, he makes so many feints, he makes so many reads, he makes so many adjustments throughout the fights according to the fighter as well. And we know that he's going to have that speed advantage anyway. So I feel like that gap's just going to get bigger. Like we see in middleweight, even though Jan is quick, but I think at his weight, I feel like he's just going to read it. I feel like he's going to read the fight so well. I think a good example of when we sort of saw this was the knee that he landed on Brunson. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that knee?
that was
very
perfectly
sort of
timed.
Yeah, that very steep knee onto the chin. It was even just something like that. It was just a readjustment, and that knee, which obviously stumbled him. I think that's going to tell in the end. I think his speed. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. I think it's going to play out on his hands. I really do.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of hand stuff, because if you throw kicks at Jan, he comes back heavy with counter hooks, and he's very, very good at checking low kicks. So I think he's going to come with more of a heavy approach. Don't get me wrong, he will kick. He may run him onto a knee, but I feel like we're going to see just how good his hands are in this fight.
I think the thing as well is, that when the difference, if we have a look at, we'll flip the conversation slightly just to what we think Jan's approach is going to be. Yeah. If we have a look at when you're getting matched up against someone like Izzy, who I don't think even has a takedown in the UFC yet. No, I don't think he does.
No.
That threat isn't there. So that actually changes things for Jan, and it can change his approach a little bit. How do you think that he's going to sort of set up to this fight?
So this is the thing, right? Usually, when you're fighting a striker, you can sort of throw, not with reckless abandonment, but there's no worry of the shot coming back, right? But you can't do that against Adesanya. He's just so good at countering. He's such a good counter striker. He will time you coming in, and people always take the piss, go, oh, he ain't got power. He'll hit you straight on the chin, and he's a 185-pound man. Like, that is going to hurt, whether he's explosive or not. So, I don't know. I feel like he'll have to be patient. Like, he'll have to wait to get in, have to head him off. And he's going to have to clinch, get those arms tired, and then start to get to work. He's got really nice kicks. He's got nice, that step-through kick to raise his body. Like, the footprint left. I've never seen anything like that. And you can hear it. There's horrible. There's no fans there. You can hear just, like, that is
bat on a punching bag, isn't it?
Legendary Polish power. Legendary Polish power.
This is the funny thing as well, because firstly, I'm just going to be intrigued to see if he takes any shots. I'm just intrigued. I just want to know if his game plan is going to be to take him down. I just want to know that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But obviously we won't find out till then. I don't think it will be. What's funny actually is he came out and said how much better his jiu-jitsu's got, and he wants a submission, which you know what he's like. He could have been joking, but Jan came out and said the knockout he wanted was the left high kick to the head knockout. So, I mean, if we see either of those, we either see that submission or we see that knockout, if it plays out how they've both said, then it's going to be very, very interesting.
It's on. They've both got ideas of how it's going to play out, but let's see it. I'm fucking so excited for this fight. Easily my favourite fight on the card.
100%. Not only on the card, but I'm going to be honest, probably ever for me. Probably my favourite ever fight that I've watched live.
There's something about an Adesanya fight for sure. McGregor's got the same effects. There's just something in the air, like there's that little, it's different. It's a different thing. Something magical could and probably will happen. And it's just a beautiful thing.
I think what makes it even more interesting is with McGregor, you have the whole Mystic Max sort of thing, but Izzy's not far off. Everything he's sort of said up to this point has been absolutely spot on. So the more that happens, the more it sort of brings eyes to you anyway, because if there's this random person who keeps predicting everything that's going to happen in his career, and so far he's just working through a checklist like this, and he said he's going to clear out the middleweight division. He didn't predict Jan at light heavyweight for champ, but he said in 2021 he's going to have that fight with John Jones, and he said that's about 3 years ago, and everything sort of played out so far. And I think where you have someone like him that's been, I'm not even going to say it, excluding the Gastelum fight, because I think that actually was more credit to him just showing that he had that in the reserves.
You need that. That answers questions 100%. For sure.
That's what he said when he came out as well. He said I need one of them to get under my belt to just show you. And I think that's really is what it is. But I think when you see someone like Izzy, who's been so dominant, I was going to say for so long, not for so long, he's very new, but so dominant thus far, it's hard to look past him. It's hard to see what does it look like when he gets rocked? What does it look?
Yeah, it's hard to bet against him, especially with all the promo that the UFC puts on and just the things you watch that get you hyped, and we love it anyway. So it's hard. It is hard to bet against him. I'm trying to make a case for Jan, but that'll probably lead us quite nicely into our predictions, I'd say.
Exactly what I was going to say. Do you want to go first, or shall I?
I feel like we could just say it at the same time. I feel like it's pretty obvious we've got the same person. I'll shoot though. Yeah, I'm going to go with Adesanya realistically. I just think that unless your name's John Jones, I don't really think anyone's beating him right now. Like, he's just on a tear. He's confident. He's sharp. He's dangerous. He's light. His takedown defense has been there so far. So I'm going to go Adesanya. I reckon it might go the distance, you know. I was going to
say how and when. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
To answer your question.
I think it'll be a good fight. I think that he'll have to show some heart in this one. Not similar to the Gastelum one, but I think it goes the distance and it's a good fight. I think it's a good competitive fight, but Adesanya wins the large part of this fight, in my opinion. Talk to me.
I'm so torn. When I think about this as well, I just don't know where I'm being biased and where I'm trying to give somewhat of an actual critique. It's hard not to imagine that Jan's going to land sort of one devastating blow in 25 minutes. But saying that, I'm still gonna put my money on Izzy.
Back your boy.
Back my boy. The fact that when you watch the UFC picks, with all the fighters and whatnot, the fact that I honestly haven't really seen anyone as of yet say Jan is just making me feel like it's going to go his way even more just for the sake of it. But yeah, I'm gonna say Izzy. I think he takes it on points. I think he takes it on points. I think he gets his hand raised at the end with it as well. I would love to see a knockout. I was going to say a knockout. I don't. I think it'll be on points, but I'd love to see one from him.
Yeah, I think he'll get a unanimous decision.
I agree.
Beautiful thing is, as you all well and know, we're going to find out.
That is the beauty of it. So that pretty much wraps us up for today and our picks at Adesanya and Jan
Blachowicz.
There we go. Nailed him. I wasn't even going to bother. Hopefully we can look at this video back in about a week's time and say, look how right we were. Yeah. But we haven't done that thus far, and I don't imagine we're going to do it anytime soon. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. We've been Casuals Corner. You've been one of our viewers. Peace.